Why do we allow our mind to be conditioned when its nature is as vast as the sky? In the teachings of Dzogchen, they explore this like no other because of the concept of Rigpa, right? This idea of total presence and pristine awareness. This nature of mind which is not touched by anything, right? It is a non-dwelling mind. It is not stuck or grasps anything. It is pristinely in its own state, in its fundamental state, in the nature of mind, right? And so the teachings of Dzogchen in Vajrayana Buddhism explore this like no other, where they say the nature of mind is as vast as the sky. And the problem with human beings is we have this urge to fix our mind on something, to dwell under a philosophy or ideology or a state of being, to give itself an identity, and we are afraid to just be as we purely are, buck naked, right? We are so afraid of that because the nature of mind is to fix itself, which leads into the second noble truth of the Buddha, which he said the cause of suffering is craving. But what the Buddha was really talking about, the cause of suffering is actually seeking, the seeking mind, right? The seeking to fix itself, the urge to fix itself, to give yourself an identity. And in doing so, we walk away from our true Buddha nature. And so I want to read to you a verse today about the nature of mind and Rigpa, the nature of Rigpa, which means that our true nature is vast as the sky. And I'm going to explain that through a verse from the Flight of the Garuda, one of the greatest texts in the world and the greatest teachings of Dzogchen. So allow me to read this verse to you. Project your attention into external fields of space and attentively watching the nature of your mind, see if it moves. When you are convinced by observation that the mind does not move, retract your attention and concentrate upon the mind within, and look carefully for the projector of diffused thought. When you have decided that there is no entity responsible for thought patterns, look carefully for the color and shape of the mind. When you arrive at the emptiness that has no color or shape, look for a center or circumference. Certain that middle and margin are the same, search for an inside and an outside. Finding no distinction between inside and outside, you arrive at total presence, which is as vast as the sky. By virtue of its all-penetrating freedom, this total presence that has no center or circumference, no inside or outside, is innocent of all partiality and knows no blocks or barriers. This all-penetrating intrinsic awareness is a vast expanse of space. All experience of samsara and nirvana arises in it like rainbows in the sky. In all its diverse manifestation, it is but a play of mind. You need only look out from the motionless space of intrinsic awareness at all experience, illusory like the reflection of the moon in water, to know the impossibility of dividing appearances from emptiness. So in this verse from the Flight of the Garuda, we're attracting our attention and our awareness from external fields back into our original state, which is as vast as the sky, as this great text explains. And so in this process, as it says in the text, that when we go through this process of just tapering back, of retracting and looking for the entity behind any of this, we see that there's actually nothing that exists, right? So it goes from the process of the projector of diffused thought, right? Who is the projector of the diffused thought? And then when you realize that there is no entity behind that, then you look for the color and the shape of mind, right? And then when you arrive at the emptiness of the color and the shape of the mind, then you go to the next process where you're looking for a center or a circumference of the mind, right? Where is this? Where is the center? Where is the circumference? And then when you arrive at the awareness that there is no inside or outside, then you are in this total presence, which is vast as the sky. You've gone through this process of retracting the mind, the awareness and the attention from the gravitational pull of the external world, not just the manifest world that we see, but also the manifest world in our mind, right? thought objects and patterns themselves are some of the grossest manifestations that we have to overcome. Not really just the gross matter that we see, but more so within ourselves. And so we have to retract that awareness back into our Rigpa total presence, which is as vast as the sky, and you abide as that. And so going through this process and understanding that there's only emptiness, right? This is the first kaya of the three kayas. This is Dhammakaya, right? Which means that the mind is empty in its essence. The nature of reality itself is empty in its essence because Dhammakaya reflects the Dhammadhatu, which is kind of that ultimate substratum of existence and is that fundamental sort of emptiness which we could relate to sort of like Nirguna Brahman in Vedanta, which is Brahman without qualities, and also Uchi in Taoism, which is the Tao and stillness. So in Vajrayana Buddhism, you have Dhammadhatu, and Dhammakaya is kind of a reflection of that on an individual level, which its essence is emptiness, right? And so in this verse, we're retracting our awareness. We're understanding that the mind has no shape, no form. There's no essential entity behind the one who thinks. And so then we arrive in this pristine awareness, the vast sky, right, of Rigpa. But how do we arrive at that? Well, we arrive at that through the second kaya, which is Sambhoga kaya, is the cognizant quality. You cannot just understand that it's all emptiness, because there would be no one to know the emptiness, right? And this is why these two kayas are inseparable, because emptiness and the cognizant quality arise together. There's a knowing of the emptiness. This is part of Rigpa. There's the knowing, right? There's something that knows the emptiness. If it was just emptiness itself, you would not be here, I wouldn't be speaking, we would just be completely nothing, right? But there's a cognizant quality, so there's a knowing, right? And so the unity of both is the third kaya, is Nirmanakaya, right? Is that eternal continuum of the first two kayas. And that's in its totality, the Buddha nature, that's Rigpa itself. That's the nature of mind. So you're understanding that fundamentally the mind is empty, its essence is empty. The mind has a cognizant quality, that's Sambhoga kaya, which knows the emptiness. This is the empty cognizance. This is Dhammakaya and Sambhoga kaya, which equals Nirmanakaya, the unity of both, right? The fundamental capacity of the mind, which is Nirmanakaya, right? That capacity. And so then next in the text, after we understand Rigpa, it says, by virtue of its all-penetrating freedom, this total presence has no center or circumference, no inside or outside, is innocent of all partiality, and knows no blocks or barriers. And so from that place, of course you don't have a partial mind, because you are vast as the sky. Even if thoughts come and arise, you are abiding in the Rigpa, and they're like clouds in a clear blue sky. But you have come back to your ultimate nature of mind, which is the sky, not the clouds, right? They're just moving, they're temporary, they're impermanent. What's permanent is the vast sky. That's what's permanent, right? And so you're just allowing that to come and go. You are not identifying with any of it. This is the non-dwelling mind. That's why it's really strange when you see a lot of modern Buddhist teachers, particularly in America, who are really just political people and pretend that they're Buddhist, right? They have a political leaning, a particular political leaning, which is partial, right? And so when you hear a Buddhist teacher who has a partial view like that, that's when you should exit the premises, because they are not following the teachings of the Buddha. They are not understanding the nature of the mind, the nature of the three kayas, which is impartial. And that's just a fact. It doesn't matter if you want to argue with that. It does not matter. These are the teachings of the Buddha. These are the teachings of Dzogchen. We're going into the deeper metaphysical layer of the mind, right? We're understanding that metaphysical layer. And so if you listen to someone who has a sense of partiality, a sense of that this is the way and this is not the way, or they're highly critical of someone who is opposed to their way, then that's when you should cease to listen to that individual or so-called fake Buddhist teacher. And so you need to abide in this Rigpa, the vast sky. And from this place, as it says in the next part, when we go beyond all the barriers and borders of ideology and beliefs and all of these partial systems that we build in our mind, and we abide in the impartial vastness of the sky, then it says in the text, all experience of samsara and nirvana arises in it like rainbows in the sky. In all its diverse manifestation, it is but a play of the mind. So even here in the flight of the Garuda, it's even stating that samsara and nirvana arise like a rainbow in the vastness of Rigpa, right? Think about that. Think about that, right? I have another video on whether samsara and nirvana exist from this particular state. And so from this vastness, samsara and nirvana are just like a rainbow. They do not penetrate its existence. In a sense, there is no time and eternity from this place, no bondage of samsara and liberation of nirvana from the state, because all you are is the vastness of the sky of Rigpa, right? You are not touched inwardly by anything. You are completely impartial, and samsara and nirvana come and go like a rainbow. And so this verse, as a result, is wrapped up by understanding that no duality from this state actually exists, even the duality of samsara and nirvana, like I said, right? And so it ends by stating that you need only to look out from the motionless space of intrinsic awareness at all experience, illusory like the reflection of the moon in water, to know the impossibility of dividing in appearances from emptiness. How could we actually divide appearances from emptiness? Think about it, right? So, like what it said, the illusory like the reflection of moon in the water. So all of the ideas and the beliefs, the ideologies that you believe in, your conditioning, your identity, this is the moon just reflected on the water, right? Your nature of mind is just the water. But the problem is we identify with the reflection, particularly of reality that we embody in our mind, right? So then we build this self-image built on external factors, and then we believe that that's actually who we truly are, and then we are so far away from the vastness of the sky. Our mind is kind of like a very dark, overcast day where we don't realize that behind all of these clouds and the storm and so forth is just a pure, clear sky. And so that's the job for all of our spiritual aspirants, is to abide as the vastness of the sky. And then as you continue to do that, then this dark and stormy, overcast day begins to sort of thin out as the pure awareness of the sun of Rigpa begins to pierce through these clouds. So then you can finally abide as you truly are, which is the vastness of the clear blue sky. Shanti, shanti, shanti.